to come on today, and it'll be talk a little bit about some of the biggest questions I get as a coach, especially a women's empowerment coach, is how did I move past my fear, my depression, my anxiety, and really discover and own who I really am. And I can tell you that when I first started on this journey, I was probably in some of the worst places anybody can be, anxiety-wise, depression-wise. I really got to understand and know the dark night of the soul, like really dark times. And there's nothing wrong with that. I think sometimes we think that when we have anxiety or depression that something's wrong with us, right? That, make sure that my mic's here. It is, okay. That we're damaged goods. And in reality, most times, in my opinion, okay, we are put into that, or we step into that experience, the anxiety, the depression, for a reason. There's something that it was going to serve. There's a reason for it. There's a reason why we had to go through it. And for me, I definitely know that that's the case. I wouldn't be who I am today or where I am today if I had not gone through that. If I had not gotten to rock bottom, to my lowest of lows. Not that I haven't had times in my life where I've had depressive tendencies or, had bouts of anxiety. But when you're fully fledged in it, and you find things that are repeating in your life, you find, this thing always happens to me, this, I'm always feeling like this. I always am trying to control the outcome. I'm always trying to control my life. I can't ever allow anything to come in. You're sad, you're tired, you don't sleep at night, or you're sleeping during the day, overeating, undereating, overspending, underspending. There's so many signs of this, okay? Or living in fear of moving forward, of taking a step, of making a mistake. So when I first started this journey, it was more about bringing it to the light for me. It was more about just really feeling what was going on and exposing it for what it was and trying to figure it out. I pretty much read every self-help book that I could get my hands on, trying to fix me, right? I read all the books. I took all the courses. I listened to all the podcasts. I watched Own like it was nobody's business. I wanted to know and hear everything from everybody. Like I was always looking outside of myself for the answer. And I found a lot of great answers, but none of them were the answer. I spent a lot of time and money really just searching for how and who was going to fix me. And that wasn't working. I found a lot of good information. I learned a whole lot, and I can help a whole lot more people because of that. But when it got real for me is when I developed my own sacred spiritual practice. And I don't want people to take this to the whole next level, whatever woo, witchy, whatever it is you want to call it thing. Anything that you do on a regular basis is a ritual. If you read your Bible every day, that's a ritual. If you go to church every Sunday, that's a ritual. So don't overthink it, okay? It doesn't have to be something dramatic and out there. For me, my morning routine, how it started out, I'll tell you how it started out and where it is now. How it started out was just me meditating every day and journaling. There's gnats out here and they're going to drive me crazy. It was literally just me listening to guided meditations. And then when I got done, I would write anything that came up for me, anything I was feeling. Some days it was like, this was a waste of my time. Nothing's working. All I did was think about all the crap I have to do today. Okay? And other days, and as I practiced it every day, consistency is the thing here. Okay? You can't meditate like once a week and think you're going to solve anything. But every day as I did it, the further and further along I did it, the more and more relaxed I got, the more and more allowing of allowing and letting go of the controlling thoughts, and the more I discovered about myself. Now, it's important to note, okay, so for me during this time, I did a 40-day first time, you know, before I had meditated here and there, but nothing serious. So I committed to a 40-day practice. And if you follow me, I'm sure you've heard this from me, but I could not say it enough, okay? So for 40 days straight, I meditated every day. It was usually about a 10 to 15 minute guided meditation. Some days it was only 5, but most days it was 10 to 15. And then I journaled whatever came up. I actually added things on as I went through this process. So about halfway through, I started getting really confused. Like, I didn't know who I was anymore. Like, I had these sensations and feelings. Oh, and I have to mention, I didn't drink during this time. Not one drop of alcohol. I didn't have one drop of sugar. I detoxed my body and my soul. Like, literally, it was a mind, body, spirit detox. Okay. So halfway through, I start having these feelings. I don't know who I am. I don't know, you know, it just didn't make any sense. I felt confused. I felt lost. So I would make note of that. And I started doing a mala meditation in the midst of this. So saying affirmations, things like that, 216 times. And I started doing mirror work, okay? Every evening I would do some work in front of the mirror, or middle of the day, whenever I could squeeze in the time. Usually when nobody was home, honestly. After day 40, by day 40, I would actually say by day 30. Day 30, 35, somewhere in between there, I started to really feel what was going on in my body. The sensations I was feeling, every little thing that came up. I think I probably cried for 6 weeks straight. And I don't mean like all day long, but like just for no reason I would cry. And for me, this happened because I spent most of my life holding on to all my feelings instead of dealing with them. Or expressing them. I just kind of bottled it up, right? And I pushed it way down deep. So on the surface, everything was okay, but it really wasn't. So when I ripped off the layers and put the mask down and stopped numbing myself with food and alcohol and stopped looking for reasons outside of myself and really just focused all my attention and energy inward, I started to get the answers to my questions. I also started to have things happen to me, right? I started to be able to feel energy. And I've always been a sensitive person. I've always been what most people nowadays classify as empathic, which up until probably 2 years ago, I didn't even know what the hell that word meant, you know? I've always been a very spiritual person. I've always been fascinated with people like Sylvia Brown and psychics. I've always had this draw and this pull, but it was like a closet thing, right? We don't talk about that stuff, right? And so when somebody would bring it up, I'd get all excited. I'd be like, oh yeah, isn't this cool? Isn't this neat? That should have been an indicator for me. But I've also been that person who people would randomly come up at a gas station and just tell me their whole life story, or in a store. Like literally I used to walk around and be like, does it say on my forehead, talk to me, or tell me your story? And people would say, like, I don't even know why I'm telling you this. I have no idea. I don't know you. I don't know why I'm telling you this. I just feel like I need to tell you this. All signs that I now know are leading to who I really am and getting to know me. So in the past, I was this strong mom, wife, strong woman, right? I can do everything. I can support myself. I can have the big corporate job. I can be that woman. I can do it all. I can have everything. Nothing shakes me. Nothing bothers me. I'm going to survive. That's great, but that's not who I really was. And that's not who anybody really is. We can't define ourselves by being a mom, by being a wife, by being a career woman. We define ourselves with our heart and our soul's purpose, okay? So through this process of meditation, and it didn't just happen through that 40 days. I didn't stop on day 40. I kept going, and I've never actually gone a day without meditating ever since then. But as I did it longer and longer and more consistent and more deep and got rid of the guided meditations and went into meditation music and really made and owned and haltered and really honed in on this practice for myself, I realized that I'm a healer. that my purpose isn't just to empower women and to change their mindset, right? That's what my business started out with. That's what, as a coach, that's where I started out with. That's just not for everybody, right? I'm not just that person. I am a healer. I am here because I have walked a journey of trauma, of pain, of heartbreak, of self-infliction, of self-sabotage for years. And it brought me to my knees, and I rose again. I rose again. Feel that. And I owned it. And I said, I healed myself by not going outside of myself. I healed myself on the inside. And here's the biggest kicker of it all, and something that I cannot ever say enough. This is not a one and done. You don't go through this journey and heal yourself and be like, I'm done. I don't need to do any more forgiveness work. I don't need to do any more work about anything. I can just be done. And I live, skipping around town, everything's fine. It's not how it works. It's not how any of this works. The forgiveness is a journey. It's not a destination, right? It's something just like the mindset work. It's not a thing that you do one time and then never have to do it again. It's a journey. It's a tool. It's a process. So now I have filled my toolbox up, right? With all these tools of how to forgive in the moment, how to forgive deeply myself and others, to not judge myself or others, to learn to make decisions and lead from my heart space and not my head, to stop overthinking. And that doesn't mean that none of this ever happens. It happens all the time. Except I can move out of it way faster now. I can move beyond it way faster. I'm not holding it in my body anymore. I suffered such severe anxiety that half of my body went into paralysis, and I thought I had a stroke. I had to control everything. Everything. I was type A on crack. And I still have my moments. Like, you don't spend 35 years of being one way and all of a sudden it's gone. But I'm not that person anymore. I live more in the moment. I allow more into my life. I have a whole lot more faith. When those fear stories come up, which they do, and they will, especially when you're on a journey and you're stepping in and moving forward more onto the next step, moving up higher, elevating, uplifting, up-leveling, whatever you want to call it, growing, evolving. Every time we do that, we have more fear. We have more things that come up. And when you're faced with it, when you're super aware of where you've been and who you are now and what it feels like in your body, you can stand on your own 2 feet and feel the ground underneath you and know that when you feel that it's an illusion, that it's not real, that the past is gone, it's done. What's happened for you as a learning tool to not repeat it, to break the cycle. And the fears of what's ahead of us in the future aren't real either. They're based off of things that have happened in our past. They're dark shadows. None of it's real. Because here's the thing. Something I always say. One, we've already survived 100% of our worst days. If yesterday was your worst day, you survived it. And you're here. Nothing can change that. Right? But you can also make a decision tomorrow, 5 minutes from now, or an hour from now that will change or alter your life forever. So your fear of never having enough, your fear of running out, of not being good enough, of not being accepted, of being judged, doesn't matter. It's not real. It hasn't happened yet. And if it is happening, if someone is standing in front of you judging you for who you are, or what your abilities are, or what your gifts are, because they don't understand them, that's just called an asshole. And I learned that today from Laureen, which is something I already knew. But I spent a lot of time in hiding when my spiritual gifts came out and when I started to discover them, because I was afraid of being judged. I was afraid of what people would say. I was afraid that people would not believe or understand or just try to discredit me just because they don't understand it, right? But the truth of the matter is it doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. When you go inside and you find the answers within, you know without a doubt who you are and what your purpose on earth is, what your purpose here is. Everybody has one. Mine is to heal. I like to say I want to heal the healers, because in order for us to heal this world, we have to heal each other. But before we can do that, we have to heal ourselves. So if you are suffering with anxiety, depression, if you need to do radical forgiveness work, if you are ready to drop the baggage, let go, move beyond, join us. Join us in the Spiritually Empowered Women's Group and speak your light. Bring it to the surface. Empower others and feel empowered yourself. But know that you are not alone, that you are loved, and that you are here for a reason. And everything else doesn't matter. Thank you for watching, and please, if you feel like this message will serve anybody, please share.